Good morning.
It is. And now it's afternoon.
It feels that way sometimes. I know what's blocking me from being in the receptive mode, and that is I am my own worst critic.
You're what?
My own worst critic.
Of course.
And so my resistance usually comes from not feeling deserving, not loving myself.
Well, all of that is about focusing on things that don't feel good. No one can just go cold turkey and stop beating up on themselves. In other words, you've made an art of it for quite a while. And sometimes in the middle of the worst feeling moments, that's when you try to make the effort to not do that so much. But that's not a good time because there's so much momentum that you just can't buck your own current, and that's all right. So you want to sort of sneak up on yourself and just like yourself before you've got on the rampage of not liking yourself. You remember, Esther remembers being a child, and sometimes their father would get in a grouchy mood, and no one really knew why. He didn't talk about why. He'd just be grouchy. And Esther's older sister, she just couldn't believe how Esther would just blunder in at the absolutely wrong time and make a suggestion that would cause trouble for everybody. It's like Esther was oblivious to what was going on. She was not sensitive. Well, sometimes you're oblivious to your own vibrational momentum. And then because you're human and action-oriented and trying to fix problems and solve things, you're used to tackling things when the problem shows up the most. But that's the worst time to do it. Oh, you can jump in with both feet and you can use all of your action in your words, and you might be able to move it a little bit one way or another, but you can't really accomplish anything unless you're hooked up with your source and really in the receiving mode and using that energy, that leverage of energy. That is the energy that creates worlds. And so the most important thing for you to do is to be sensitive to where you are, like Esther's sister wanted Esther to be sensitive about where her father is. Don't go in at the worst time and try to make something happen. Take a nap instead. Or change the subject in some way. Or our favorite remedy to all things resistant related, is to take 15 or 20 minutes every morning to meditate, to quiet your mind. It resets your vibrational relationship with your inner being. Do you meditate?
Yes.
When you meditate, do you reach that place where you actually feel detachment?
I have, yes.
And the way we want to present meditation is not a time to receive inspiration from your inner being. Meditation is the way you prepare yourself for the receiving. And a lot of people get that mixed up. They get into meditation and they have something that they want to talk over, and so their mind is all chatty and they're all involved and they're thinking too hard and they're taking little bits of thought that they're just barely receiving, and then they're blowing them out into something so much bigger because they're determined that they're going to be really good receivers and really good meditators. And we say, just cool your jets a little bit. Quiet your mind and be satisfied with no thought. And if you can be reaching for no thought, which just means a sort of subtle detachment from physical, and you can stay there just for a little while. Sometimes it takes 12 or 13 or 14 minutes to get there. And once you feel that detachment, you know what we're talking about? You can just stay there for 2 or 3 minutes and just enjoy the sometimes subtle movement. Esther told her daughter the other day, sometimes when I meditate, I have to go for the quiet again and again and again and again and again because my mind is all chatty and eager. And Tracy said, I'm so happy to hear you say that, because I thought that with all these years of meditating that you could just go right there. And Esther said, sometimes I do. It depends on what's been active in my vibration. That's why meditating early, before you answer email, before the phone starts ringing, before you engage with any other, if you can quiet your mind and set your vibrational frequency with your inner being, then you will, when you come back into your awareness, you will, for a moment, it might not last very long at first, but for a moment, you will feel about yourself as your inner being feels. And when you catch a little whiff of how your inner being feels about you, the feeling of love and appreciation. Esther had a wonderful flight yesterday, and it was an early flight, and she had a really interesting ride to the airport. She was in a city that she was not familiar with, and she was driving herself there, and she missed the turn to the parking garage and got herself in some place she shouldn't have been and couldn't get out of it. And then a man came along. We know this sounds crazy, but to be sort of boxed in a canyon of construction. And two nice men came along wearing their vests in a truck. And Esther rolled down her window and she said, "You see what I've done to myself?" And they said, "Yeah, there's no way out of here." And Esther said, "Do you have a sandwich?" And they laughed. And Esther said, "I see that sign that says no right turn, but if you'll look the other way, I think I'm going to make a right turn there." And they said, "That's what we would do." So Esther made a right turn and ended up in the car return garage and made her way through so many people who were walking with suitcases, and then circled all the way around the terminal, all the way around the airport. She had to exit the airport and come back in. And that time she did it right. And she was feeling all proud of herself because not only did she make a mistake and not feel bad about it, it's new, not feel bad about it, but she learned everything that anyone would ever want to know about that airport. And then it was freaky. She parked in a place that was the last parking place on earth. This is not her style, but it sort of fit what had already been going on. The momentum was sort of like that. And she's laughing and she's thinking, it's really worth cleaning up your vibration before you drive. And then she walked for a long time. She's checking her new watch. How many steps? Good God. And then she comes to an elevator, but she does not know what floor she wants, and she gets in and nothing really makes sense. But a man got in with her and told her what to do. He said, "Follow me." So she followed him until she knew sort of where she was. And then by the time she got onto the airplane, she was flowing with such newfound self-respect. Not because she'd learned a new airport, but because she didn't beat up on herself about how truly stupid she had been. How do you know until you know? The airport's under construction. None of the signs are quite where they ought to be. And thinking back on it, she now sees how silly her mistake was, but how much fun she had with all of these people along the way. And then when she got onto the airplane, this is the part that we're really wanting to get to. She was in such a state of newfound appreciation, not because of her brilliant transfer through the airport. It was maybe the worst one anyone has ever done. But because it had been an adventure that didn't get her down and a learning experience that will serve her well because she will use that airport frequently. And then she put her headphones on, set her music for shuffle, and then went into orbit as all of her favorite songs joined her in the reveille of living happily ever after. That's what we wish for you, you see. But it takes some opportunities to beat upon yourself in order to know the deliciousness of no longer doing that. Now that part's done with you. You've beat upon yourself long enough. What we wish for you to know is how your inner being feels about you when you do those things that you're being hard on yourself about. Your inner being never looks there. Your inner being is always solution oriented. And how remarkable it was that every step along the way, there was someone to help Esther out of the pickle that she had gotten herself into. There's always someone there. There is always a path of less resistance or a path of more resistance. So you can make life as hard on yourself as you want to. And most people, from the moment of their first realizing that they have made a mistake, They go down a road of harder and harder and harder and harder and harder for quite a while. And it's just not necessary. From the moment that you realize that you're off your beat from where you want to be, your inner being is even more available to you, because that's when the real fun of life begins. When you know exactly what you're doing and you're not doing any strong asking for guidance, and you're just in a sort of rote way, following the patterns that you've always done, doing the same thing all day, every day, putting everything right where you meant for it to be. That's not creation. That's regurgitation. That's not expansion. That's just repeating the same old thing. That's not adventure. That's boredom. Life comes when you make mistakes. Life comes when you really know what you don't want, because it causes a stronger asking. And so if you can just get used to, when there's something that you really know that you don't want, to know that the solution-oriented part of you, which is your inner being and the team that is all of us, we're on the case and we're offering suggestions, and there is no life more fun or more worth living or more adventurous than the life that you live when you've made a wrong turn and your inner being and all of your inner being's friends are on it. The entire universe becomes this cooperative playground as you watch things balance out for you. It's why you seek adventure. You want to feel that exhilaration of all of that energy moving with you, you see. So appreciation is another way to get there. But when you're beating up on yourself, you're so far from appreciation, it's really not even worth trying. And so what do you do when you're in the middle of a thought or a mess that doesn't feel good to you? When you're beating up on yourself, just acknowledge, I'm beating up on myself again. It's sort of a pattern I've had for a while, and it's okay. And then in the morning, before your day gets far along, meditate, and then notice that this day is better than the day before. Every day will be. Every day will be. Until you'll be having step 5 moments all over the place, which are those glorious moments of expansion and adventure. And you'll feel the power of your inner being right there with you, enjoying this new trail, this new path, this new place, this new interaction, this new idea, this new letting yourself have the expansion that